The date is September 20th, 1792. It is a day that will echo through history, though few realize it, as dawn breaks over the French countryside. A thick fog clings to the hills of northeastern France, turning fields into mud. The air is heavy with tension, and the ground is scarred by the tracks of artillery and boots. On a ridge near an old windmill stands an army, a mix of royalist soldiers and passionate volunteers, many seeing battle for the first time. Their hearts pound with fear and hope, uncertain of what the day will bring. They are shoemakers, lawyers, farmers and clerks, ill-equipped and barely trained, yet they stand between the French Revolution and its destruction. Ordinary people, united by a cause greater than themselves, ready to risk everything. Opposite them, the finest army in Europe, the Prussians, led by the Duke of Brunswick, march to crush the revolution and restore the French king. Their discipline and experience seem overwhelming, their confidence unshaken. The outcome seems certain. The French force is about to be annihilated, the experiment in democracy over. The world watches, holding its breath, as the fate of a nation hangs in the balance. But then, General François Kellerman raises his hat on his sword and shouts, "Vive la nation!" His men echo the cry, a roar of belief that cuts through fear and doubt, igniting a spark of courage. This is not a battle for a king or territory, it's for an idea that will change the world. They fight for liberty, equality, and the right to shape their own destiny. Valmy was more than a military victory. It was the birthplace of modern nationalism. The world would never be the same after this day. A citizen army fighting for a nation faced and defeated a professional royal army. The impossible had happened, and the world took notice. The shout of "Vive la nation!" announced the power of the people. It was a declaration that ordinary citizens could shape history. The principles of democracy and self-determination were saved that day. The revolution survived, and with it, the hope for a new kind of world. The world we live in was shaped in the mud and rain of Valmy. In that moment, the future was rewritten, and the breath the world held was finally released. To truly grasp the miracle of Valmy, we must first understand the chaos and turmoil from which it emerged. The streets of Paris and the countryside beyond were engulfed in confusion, fear, and uncertainty. France in 1792 was on the verge of total collapse, its cities crumbling and its people desperate for hope. Just 3 years after the storming of the Bastille, the optimism that once filled the air had curdled into widespread fear and anxiety. Political divisions ran deep, tearing the country apart as rival factions battled for control and influence. Radicals demanded ever more extreme measures, while royalists plotted in the shadows, hoping to restore the monarchy and reverse the revolution. The economy was in ruins. Food was scarce, prices soared, and riots erupted in the streets as hunger and frustration grew. For many, the revolution's dream had become a living nightmare, with hope fading fast. Yet, an even greater threat loomed on the horizon. European monarchs viewed the revolution as a dangerous plague that must be stamped out before it spread. The King of Prussia and the Holy Roman Emperor joined forces, determined to invade France, crush the revolutionary government, and restore King Louis to the throne. In August, the invasion began. Foreign armies crossed the border, threatening the very existence of the new republic. The Allied army, led by the experienced Duke of Brunswick, was formidable and well-equipped, striking fear into the hearts of the French. The infamous Brunswick Manifesto threatened Paris with utter destruction if the royal family was harmed. Instead of cowing the people, it backfired spectacularly, igniting a surge of nationalism and defiance. Volunteers from across France, the Fédérés, streamed into Paris, their voices raised in the stirring anthem of La Marseillaise, ready to defend their homeland. The revolutionary government responded with a call for mass mobilization, urging every citizen to join the fight for liberty. Men were summoned to arms, while women worked tirelessly, sewing tents and uniforms, supporting the war effort from behind the lines. Georges Danton, a voice of thunder in the assembly, declared, "To conquer, we need audacity, more audacity, and always audacity." In this feverish atmosphere of patriotism and desperation, the French army was hastily assembled, ready to face the invading forces. The revolution stood at a crossroads, its fate and the fate of France hanging in the balance as the nation braced for the coming storm. The invasion's start was disastrous for the French. The Allied army seemed unstoppable. Longwy surrendered quickly, sending terror through Paris. The road to the capital seemed open. Panic turned to fury. Radicals blamed traitors. Fear exploded into the September massacres. Verdun, a strong fortress, was next. Its fall was catastrophic. The Prussians were close to Paris. The French command was in disarray. Generals Dumouriez and Kellerman led the main armies. Dumouriez made a bold decision: move south into the Argonne, cut Prussian supply lines, and force a fight. It was a risky gamble. Dumouriez ordered Kellerman to join him. The French soldiers marched through rain and mud, knowing the revolution's fate rested on them. On September 19th, the armies met, taking a defensive position on a ridge near Valmy. The stage was set for a decisive confrontation. September 20th dawned gray and foggy. The French army, 52,000 strong, held the high ground. Kellerman's corps was central at Valmy windmill. Dumouriez's troops secured the flanks. The fog lifted, revealing the Prussian army, 34,000 men, in perfect formation. The battle began with cannon fire. The Prussians expected to shatter the French lines. But the French artillery, reorganized by Jean-Baptiste de Gribeauval, answered with a thunderous barrage. For hours, an intense artillery duel raged. Over 20,000 cannonballs were fired. The ground shook. Smoke and rain obscured the battlefield. Soldiers stood firm under bombardment. The rain turned the ground to mud, hindering the Prussian advance. Many Prussian cannonballs buried harmlessly in the mud, while French artillery proved effective. The Prussian army was being beaten at its own game. As the afternoon wore on, Brunswick grew increasingly frustrated. Despite the thunderous roar of his artillery, the French lines held firm, their resolve unbroken by the relentless bombardment. The smoke and chaos of battle filled the air, but the French would not yield. Realizing that cannon fire alone would not shatter the enemy, Brunswick made a fateful decision. He ordered a full-scale infantry assault, hoping to break the French by force of arms. Prussian grenadiers advanced in disciplined formation, bayonets glistening in the fading light, their faces set with grim determination as they marched toward the French positions. The French volunteers, many fighting in their first battle, wavered under the pressure. Panic rippled through their ranks as the enemy closed in, and for a moment, it seemed the line might break. At this critical moment, General Kellerman rode forward. He raised his hat high on the tip of his sword and cried out with all his might, "Vive la nation!" With a powerful voice, he called on his soldiers to fight not just for themselves, but for France, for a nation of free citizens, united in a common cause. The effect was electric. In an instant, fear vanished from the soldiers' faces, replaced by a surge of patriotic passion and determination. The soldiers roared back, "Vive la nation! Vive la France!" Their voices rose together as they sang revolutionary songs, the sound echoing across the battlefield. The advancing Prussians were astonished. They had expected to face a terrified mob, but instead, they saw an army transformed by defiance and unity. The French line stood firm, singing with enthusiasm, their courage and spirit unbroken in the face of danger. Brunswick, stunned by this unexpected display of resolve, saw the determination burning in their eyes and realized the situation had changed. He understood that taking the ridge would now cost thousands of his men, with no guarantee of victory. The price was simply too high. Reluctantly, he ordered the assault called off, signaling his troops to halt their advance. The Prussian infantry halted, then turned and began to retreat from the field, their hopes of victory dashed. The battlefield fell silent, smoke lingering in the air. The battle was effectively over, and history had been made at Valmy. The Battle of Valmy, decisive in history, had remarkably few casualties. Fewer than 500 men were lost on both sides. It was a battle won by psychological dominance and moral resolve. The French didn't destroy the Prussian army. They refused to be broken. The battle was a crossroads of history, with figures like Karl von Clausewitz and Louis-Philippe Werner present. Goethe, witnessing the birth of a new era, famously said, "From this place, forth begins a new era in the history of the world." Rumors of secret deals and conspiracies have swirled around Valmy, but the Prussian retreat remains a mystery. The anticlimax of the retreat has kept suspicions alive for centuries. The day after the battle, a tense standoff ensued for 10 days. The Prussian army, deep in hostile territory, suffered terribly. Supply lines were cut, food ran out. Soldiers foraged for survival. Dysentery swept through the camp, ravaging the army. The Duke of Brunswick realized his position was untenable. He negotiated with Dumouriez, who offered a safe retreat if they evacuated French territory. On September 30th, the Prussian army began its retreat. The finest army in Europe was defeated by weather, disease, and a citizen army's will. The retreat was a nightmare, roads littered with bodies of men and horses. The news of Valmy and the Prussian retreat spread like wildfire. The revolution had been saved, the threat of invasion vanished. The victory at Valmy reached Paris on September 21st, the day the National Convention met. The victory was seen as a divine sign, validating the revolutionary cause. Fear and paranoia were replaced by euphoria and pride. The convention voted to abolish the monarchy, declaring the birth of the French Republic. September 22nd, 1792, became the first day of year 1 of liberty. The victory gave leaders confidence to create a new political world. The French armies, filled with invincibility, went on the offensive. Dumouriez won another victory at Jemappes, conquering Belgium. The revolution was now exporting its ideas across Europe. Valmy legitimized the revolution, proving a citizen army could defeat professional armies. The concept of the nation in arms became a cornerstone of modern warfare and politics. Valmy teaches us the force of human will and belief. The French, outmatched and outnumbered, possessed a unifying idea. They fought for homes, rights, and a new world. History is made by ordinary people, not just generals or kings. The heroes of Valmy were volunteers who defended an idea. Their courage and shout of "Vive la nation" changed history. Valmy marked a shift from aristocratic warfare to national war. The idea that a nation is its people is the foundation of modern democracy. But nationalism can also lead to conflict. Valmy's legacy is one of hope and inspiration. It shows that determined individuals can shape the world. The shout "Vive la nation" still resonates, reminding us of the power of unity. The world is shaped by the courage and conviction of ordinary people.